24 there, the previous page, the first benefit there is temptation offers a test of love. So, of course, we're not robots, right? We have moral responsibility, and the Lord is calling on us to resist temptations. And you remember, a temptation, we could say, is an enticement to sin. Somebody or something is trying to get you to sin, all right? So that's what's kind of going on there. But it does offer a test of love. Are you going to love the Lord and turn away from evil? And so to love the Lord is to turn away from evil. And so that's what we need to be ready to do at any given moment, isn't it? Because sometimes temptations can come upon us suddenly, and we have to be ready to resist by God's grace. Okay, so that first one, temptations offer a test of love. And secondly, page 125, temptation offers an opportunity for obedience. We typically think of temptation in a negative sense as an opportunity to sin. However, it is just as true that temptation is an opportunity not to sin, to obey. Job offers a tremendous example of the privilege of being tempted. You say a privilege? You bet. Let's go to Job there. Job chapter 1. And you remember that story of how Job is an upright man. He is complete. He is turning away from evil. And he has this wealth. He has children, verse 2. He has wealth, verse 3. And the story goes there, verse 4. His sons were feasting in their houses. And Job is a righteous man to that extent that he's offering sacrifices because toward the end of verse 5 it says, "It may be that my sons have sinned and cursed God in their hearts." And so Job went ahead and offered sacrifices just in case. Okay, and so there is this time in the presence of God, verse 6, of what's actually going on. We kind of get this picture of what's happening behind the scenes. Now, Job, of course, does not get that picture, which really makes the story interesting for us because we kind of can see what's going on behind the scenes, so to speak. So verse 6, "There was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them. And the Lord said unto Satan, Whence comest thou? And Satan answered the Lord and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. And the Lord said unto Satan, Hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and an upright man, one who feareth God and escheweth evil? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, Doth Job fear God for naught? Hast not thou made an hedge about him, and about his house, and about all that he hath on every side? Thou hast blessed the work of his hands, and his substance is increased in the land. But put forth thine hand now, and touch all that he hath, and he will curse thee to thy face. And the Lord said unto Satan, Behold, all that he hath is in thy power, only upon himself put not forth thine hand. So Satan went forth from the presence of the Lord. Okay, so that passage now explain, why do you think being tempted is a privilege?
God considered him able to withstand it, and double that.
Okay. God considered him able to withstand that. And we memorized that verse that speaks to that, right? As Pastor's been in recent memory here, one of the verses about temptation. I will not sing it though, okay, because I do not remember the tune about who will not suffer you to be tempted beyond that you're able. The tune is not coming to me right now, or I'd help us out with it. But so he does equip us to be able to resist temptation, and that would have been true in Job's life as well. Okay, so any other thought on why being tempted is a privilege? Dory? Okay. Tries our faith, makes it stronger. Okay. Yeah, that is true. Yeah, I think we'll get to James here tonight probably, and we'll see that a little bit more. I'm not sure exactly what they're getting out of the book. My guess is that what in the book they're getting at here is that, yeah, I think what Denise was kind of saying there, like the Lord is saying to Satan these things about, have you considered Job? I mean, there's a true test for you, you know. And temptations end up coming in Job's life here. So there is this dialogue between God and his enemy, and Job comes up, and the fact that Job's name would be mentioned is quite the testimony of what God had done in Job's life, and then Job's possibility here in the midst of this temptation that Job would be able to resist temptation. And we do see at the end of the chapter, in verse 22, in all this Job sinned not, nor charged God foolishly. And so you can see the success there. So notice the book says that Job experienced both senses of temptation. He suffered tremendous trials, including loss of his family, possessions, and health. Throughout those trials, he was also enticed to sin. Most notably, chapter 2, verse 9, okay, which says, somebody want to read that, please? Job 2, verse 9. Dave?
Then his wife said to him, "Do you still hold fast to your integrity? Curse God and die."
Yeah, that's quite a... You know, you wonder why Satan didn't do anything to Job's wife. Maybe that's why, you know, because he kind of knew maybe a little bit more than we did, right? So yeah, that's unfortunate there. So he didn't do that, did he? He didn't fall for that, because he says, verse 10, "Thou speakest as one of the foolish women speaketh." And so Job passed both tests. What was his response to trials and enticement? In the first chapter there, verses 21 and 22. I kind of read that. But the 21st verse, "Naked came I out of my mother's womb, and naked shall I return thither. The Lord gave, and the Lord hath taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." And then in all this, Job sinned not, didn't charge God foolishly. Okay, so what would you put there in the blank? What was his response to trials? How would you kind of succinctly put that?
He didn't expect to just have a life free of problems.
Okay.
He expected it.
Yeah, that is true too. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so yeah, you could put that. Yeah, you could just maybe single out a phrase like that. He's recognizing, you could say, the Lord, he's recognizing that the Lord is the one who gives and takes away, recognizing his sovereignty in that and goodness. And so blessed be the name of the Lord, right? So his response, I guess you could even say that, right? That his response is one of blessing God, meaning he is thanking God for his benefits, even though in this case, he's taken some away. And boy, I think to myself, I know I don't have that within myself, right? Like in and of myself, there dwells no good thing. And so I would need that kind of grace at that time to be able to resist temptation in the midst of that trial that he's going through there. So Job maintained his integrity, yet only Jesus endured temptation without a single compromise. Hebrews 4:15 says that Christ was in all points tempted like as we are, yet without sin. The biblical account of Christ's temptation is given in Matthew 4 and will be discussed later. Jesus glorified God through his temptations in a way that would have been impossible had he not been tempted. Though he was tempted, what amazing statement did he make? John 8:29. Let's go there, John 8:29. There's an amazing statement in here. And what statement did he make? Somebody want to read that, please? John 8:29. Okay, Rhoda?
And he that sent me is with me. The Father hath not left me alone, for I do always those things that please him.
Okay, and the amazing statement being, I always do the things that please him. Okay, so there's never a time when Jesus did not do that. He always did what pleased the Father. And then the book says, notice that being tempted is not a sin in itself. Even Jesus was tempted. Okay, so sometimes it may be difficult to discern that. But we do need to recognize that Jesus was tempted, and that temptation itself is not sin. And so we do need to be careful to resist temptation, but we also need to recognize that just because we are being tempted does not mean that we have sinned. Okay, and the number three reason or benefit of temptation. Number 3, temptation offers an opportunity for maturity. Let's go to James chapter 1 here. And you remember we have 2 different trials or temptations in the King James, the word temptations. We have the word verse 2 at the end of the verse, temptations. And then we have the same word, temptation, in verse 12 as well. And so, but the concept in verse 2 is trials, like what we would consider trials. And verse 12, the concept there is of what we would call just temptations, enticements to sin. Okay, so James 1:2 commands believers to rejoice when they encounter temptation, that is, difficulties, and the temptation to sin, which usually accompany them. Although the command to rejoice seems strange, what is the reason given? Verses 3 and 4. So let's look at this. Let me just kind of read this here. Verse 2, my brethren, count it all joy when you fall into divers temptations, or you could say various trials, knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience, or endurance. But let patience have her perfect work, that ye may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing, lacking nothing. Okay, so the command of rejoicing, what is the reason given? So you're to rejoice when you fall into various trials. Why? What's the reason? What? I'm kind of hearing some stuff. Okay, patience. Okay, you're getting patience, right? You are receiving endurance through that. The trying of your faith, which is what is going on in a trial. Your faith is being tried, and that is working endurance in you. Okay, now, this might be your devotional thought tonight. What happens, though, if you do not care about endurance? So let's just flip it. I'm kind of flipping it now. What if you do not care very much about endurance in your Christian life? What's also true then, if you're going to work backwards in the passage? You're also not going to be able to what? Yeah, it's not going to happen. That's right. Okay, but if the endurance, okay, so let endurance, verse 3. the trying of your faith works endurance. Oh, okay. Well, I don't really care, right? I mean, if that's my mindset, right? I don't really care about that. How am I going to be doing it? Verse 2. You're not going to be rejoicing. Okay, and so therefore, if you're not rejoicing, you don't really care a whole lot about endurance in the Christian life, right? So the knowing, right? So count it all joy when you fall into these various trials. How? How am I going to do that? By knowing this, by knowing that this works endurance in your life. So I need to care about that, right? I need to care about endurance in the Christian life. That needs to be something that I'm acknowledging, that I appreciate endurance, this mindset, this strength of heart that keeps going in my trust in the Lord, like Job did. And I appreciate, just like James says later, right, that we count him blessed. Wow, yeah, that's awesome. Look at that. I want that. That's what I want in my life, to be able to say, the Lord gives, the Lord takes away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. I want to be able to say that with all sincerity and not just because, it's the right thing to say. Or I really want to feel that. I really want to have that kind of heart that can express that with conviction toward the Lord. And so I really need to care about endurance. So, boy, you're going through a trial in your life. It's like, wow, there can be joy, right? And if you look at the passage like this, you think, man, I don't have joy right now in the midst of this trial. And this passage is pretty clear. It says I can have that. Lord, help me. I want to care more about endurance. I really want to know that the trying of my faith works this endurance in my life. I really want to know this more. Really, really help me with this. And maybe you're going through something and you just need to make that your prayer request each day, because you got this big thing going on and it is a huge thing, and you are really sensing this need to rejoice in the midst of this. Okay, Lord, please help me to know, James 1:3, that the trying, the testing of my faith is working endurance. Help me to really know this and to really have a strong sense of that. Maybe there's some other Bible passages that you need to look up when it comes to Christian endurance. Does anybody think of one right now? Dory. 1 Peter, 3? Okay, let's try it. I'm sorry, 1 Peter 3? 1 Peter 1. Okay, blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. Okay, yeah, okay, okay, and verse 7, the trial of your faith, being much more precious than of gold that perishes, though it be tried with fire, might be found unto praise and honor and glory at the appearing of Jesus Christ. You see how that really exalts the trial of your faith? It really puts that trial of your faith. And this is not just talking about persecution, right? Because James is talking about what? Various trials, various temptations. Okay, so that's all sorts of things. Okay, so it's not just persecution or something like that. But look at how that faith, verse 7, it says, being much more precious than of gold. wow, and so it's, the trial of my faith, and so it's tried by fire, and to be found unto praise, honor, and glory at the appearing of Jesus Christ. So you can see how precious that is to the Lord and his viewpoint of what you're going through, the trying of your faith. But we so often don't have that mindset, do we? We have our own little, right? Like, I get the woe is me kind of thing, right? But if I were to have God's perspective on it and really have a verse like that to really impact my life and show me that the trying of this faith that he's given to me, that I have, that I'm expressing to him, is so precious to him. Much more precious than of gold that perishes. We're talking about, that perishes, gold perishes, but we're talking about in the future, right, the appearing of Jesus Christ. How long's that going to, it's going to last forever then, right? And so these trials that you are facing right now is being used of God to try your faith, to test it as though by fire, so that it will have an eternal impact. That will have an impact forever unto the praise, honor, and glory of God at his appearing, at Christ's appearing. So, just have that mindset, right? It's like, but it takes meditating on those verses, doesn't it? You got to change your mind. Your mind's got to be changed. Let me have your perspective on trials. And you're looking up different verses like that and letting them, right, change your mind.
Don't you think every time you endure something and you trust in him and you pray and you trust in him and pray and you get through it, when you have the next problem that you come up with or whatever, you have more faith to endure?
Yeah, sure.
Somehow God will get you out of it.
Yeah, the Lord is...
If you pray and if you believe.
Yeah, the Lord is testing your faith. He's strengthening your faith in those moments. And then as more trials come, you're able to get through them even more. Yeah, that's true. That's right. Good. Yeah, okay, so let's be careful then to really absorb these kinds of Bible passages when it comes to our trials, and to have God's perspective on it, how he views it, and then attempt to be molded by those verses, to have God's viewpoint on it, and no longer to have our own viewpoint. Oh man, it's so easy to stand up here and say that stuff. You know what I'm saying? But, I'll get up in the middle of the night and probably step on a Lego. Right? And so how weak I am, or that we are in our creature comforts and stuff. But so really, we do need the Lord's help on that, and that he would give us so much grace to have our minds molded by Scripture, and that we would have a better viewpoint on trials like that. Good. All right, we will come back here. So we'll just end here tonight.